Hello everyone, it's Wacky Animative here to present you with What If Issei Had White Snake Part 1. Let's go and get into it. Currently, a masked armed man is walking directly towards the bank doors. As he does, he pushes them open and hides his weapon in his coat. As he walks in, he notices the bank is completely full. Man, it's packed. That this isn't good, he thinks in his head. As he looks around trying to find the guards, he finds two stationed in the front and two stationed beside the bank teller. Immediately he thinks, good thing I have a secret weapon. As he walked towards the bench and sat down as if being casually waiting for his turn in line. And as he was sitting down, the guy beside him on the reading the newspaper was looking directly at him and said, "Hey, these lines sure suck, don't they? This is probably going to be horrible, honestly." And as the guy says, "Yeah, you don't know the half of it." As the masked robber says this, as he stares at him and he says, "Hey, why do you say that?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's going to be a really bad day, trust me." And immediately the guy reading the newspaper says, "Wait, why?" And he said, "Oh, because I'm robbing the place." And he's like, "Oh, it's because you're robbing the place." Wait, what? Before he pulls out both pistols out of his coat and aims them in opposite positions, one in the entrance and one near the bank tellers, he shoots both shots. One bullet heading directly towards the front, towards the guard that was leaning on the wall. And as the bullet reached towards the middle of his forehead, it went through, penetrating and going directly through his head, aiming all the way outwards. Once it reached the back of his head, you could see his brain matter flowing off the bullet as it crashed out. And he fell all the way back to the wall that he was leaning on, and the blood was completely flowing on the wall, staining it with blood. As the other bullet went towards the guy who was making moves on the bank teller, trying to get inside of her, pants apparently, as the bullet hit directly in the side of his skull, causing him to fall to the ground. She immediately screamed as the man got up off the bench and says, "Everybody get down the ground, this is a robbery." As he says this, he points the gun directly towards the bank teller and says, "Don't you dare press that red button under your desk. Go ahead and fill this with money," as he throws a bag towards her. And she ends up going to the bag to fill with money and removing the money from the cash register first. As she's removing the money from the cash register, all of a sudden, the robber sees in the mirror, a little mirror that's on the side of the bank teller's office, that there's someone that's not on the ground. As he looks behind him and sees a teen saying, absolutely nothing, but having the absolute gall and confidence to lean on the wall as if nothing's happening. He says in his head, as he points his gun directly towards the teen and says, "Get on the ground now." As the teen says, "How about no?" And he says, "Just get on your knees." And as he says this, all of a sudden the teen says, "I wasn't your mother last night." As he walks closer towards the gunman, and the gunman feels his trigger finger fidgeting on the trigger, about to fire. And he looks directly towards the teen and says, "Were you a good boy?" And the teen says, "I think I was the best boy." As he says this, the robber says, "Then good boys go to heaven," as he shoots his shot. And all of a sudden, a humanoid figure comes out right beside Issei, the teen known as Issei. As the humanoid figure appears beside him, he has golden eyes and a crown head, apparently, with writing all over him, and appears to be very, very intimidating. As it appears out, the robber sees him vividly and immediately thinks in his head, this guy's a stand user, as the teen known as Issei stares at him and stares at the bullets that he just fired, and immediately just plucks them out of the air and throws it directly at him, as it went directly through his knee, as it went directly into his knee, lodging itself there. As Issei stared into his eyes and said, now, let's get to business. I'm not even here about the bank robbery you're doing. That's just a bonus. The reason why I'm here is because you have an arrow that you're not supposed to have. An arrow that you took from transport. And it's very dangerous. Now, where is it? As he says this, as Issei says this, the man looks at him and says, you mean that antique arrow, you know, the one that I found? I mean, there was nothing there but a wreckage. I just scrummaged through the wreckage. As he says this, he says, I don't know about that. As Issei says, are you going to do this the easy way, or are you going to do this the hard way? And as he says this, the man on the ground says, how about we do this my way? But right beside him, a little plane appears. It's not just any plane. This plane has spider legs, and it has it has actual telescope as its eyes, as it stares directly at the opposing stand, and all of a sudden, it hops towards him and latches onto him. It also stabs into him and gets bigger and bigger and starts to dig its fangs into him. As this is happening and he's essentially getting devoured, Issei's just standing there, not even moving, until he moves his stand so fast that no one could really see it at the time, not even the person who was currently attacking him, as he slapped this man so hard that he flew directly outside of the bank through the wall. And as that happened, he ran directly towards him, getting closer and getting his stand to charge as many punches as possible towards him, doing a barrage, a flurry of attacks. As the robber says, come on, you can do this, as his stand was biting down harder and more viciously, almost getting to a few arteries and a few fragile parts of his body. And as it was biting harder and more blood was flowing out, Issei just continued to beat the ever-loving shit out of him, as the robber was getting punched in the face, in the arms, the stomach, the chest, everywhere. He was being barraged so quickly, he didn't even know it happened until a few seconds later. It was a delayed pain, but it came all at once. And he felt every single ounce of this flowing through him, every ounce of pain through every fiber of his being, as he did the finishing blow directly towards his jaw, causing him to literally go directly into the street. And as he was in the street, Issei just grabbed him by the collar, lifted him up, and put him directly face forward back towards the ground, in front of the road, to where his head would be in front of a tire if it came by. And he said, Tell me where is the arrow? The man said, I don't know, I really don't. As the car is coming by and is about to run directly into his head if he doesn't answer soon, he says, alright, fine, it's in the city of Kyo. As he says this, he says, oh, it is? As he lifts his head up just in time as the car ran past, and The robber was in horror. That was almost his head being flattened. While that was happening, and he was having an internal crisis, Issei just threw him to the ground, got up, and walked directly towards a car that's outside of the bank. He immediately went on his phone and called his father. As he was calling his father, and it was going through, POV change. Currently, we see Jotaro Kujo in his office, admiring the tank that he has with a dolphin there. Immediately trying to look through the anatomy of dolphins. He really loves dolphins. He even has plushies all over his office. And he has a dolphin toothbrush. He has a dolphin mug. And a dolphin computer. Honestly, he has an addiction, which he's currently feeding. As he is doing this, admiring the dolphins, he immediately hears on his dolphin ringtone phone that apparently his son's calling, so he answers. As he answers, he says, What is it? Did you find out where the arrow is? Did you retrieve it? Or immediately on the other end, Issei says, yeah, I didn't retrieve it from him, but he gave me a location. It's apparently the city of Kyo. And on the other end, his dad says, well, it looks like you're going to have to go back to school. I'm going to transfer you there, okay? And I need you to find the arrow. You know how much importance this is, right? We don't want another Dio arriving or another Diabolo. God forbid, he says. As on the other end, Issei says, understood. As he hangs up, and so does Jotaro. POV change. Issei is currently driving directly back towards his house. As he walks directly towards his house, he starts to pack up all of his things, getting a flight towards Kyo also, and renting out a hotel. As he got his things and got ready for the flight, a few hours later, he'd arrive in Kyo. And that's What If Issei Had White Snake. This is actually going to be part 0, to be honest.